everyone. Welcome back to the Social Work Bubble podcast. I'm your host, Laura. Today I'm joined by our lovely guest, Jenna Rodjenski. Thank you so much, Jenna, for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Before we really dive into today, which is going to be a really fun conversation with Jenna about like finding balance in social work, money, which I think is very important, and balance and all of these things. Um, Jenna, do you want to go ahead and kind of just introduce yourself and what you're currently doing in social work, and also even a little bit about like what brought you into social work in the first place?
Absolutely. So like Laura said, my name is Jenna Rodjenski. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in Philadelphia. I have been practicing social work for about, geez, I always have to do the math, about 7 years now. I've been in private practice for about three, and I currently own a group practice with one of my colleagues and close friends called Take Care Collective. We're a group practice and mental wellness collective based out of Philadelphia and Baltimore.
That's awesome. Wow,
Yeah,
that's so exciting.
pretty cool.
Well, that's cool. What
Phil,
made you decide to get into social work in the first place?
that's a fantastic question. When I started college, I actually had grand ideas of going to law school and becoming a lawyer. Um,
Mm,
and it so I was a political science major and pre-law, and I took an elective class, actually just accidentally as part of my gen ed classes. That was Intro to Social Work, and I remember being in that class, and I was like, "Oh, this is actually what I want
yes.
to do." Like, this actually feels way like a way better fit than what I had wanted to accomplish
hmm
as a lawyer. So from there, it was kind of like a no-brainer. I changed my major, changed my educational path, and haven't looked back since.
Wow, that's so cool. I had that same moment when I was in nursing and I
Mm.
hated nursing so much and I
Yeah,
took like that same intro, I think it was intro to human
right.
services that I took and I was like, well, this is it. This is
Yeah.
what I have found.
Yeah, it was like you just kind of feel it, when you're like, oh, this
hmm
like the helping people or the advocating for people, and you're like, oh wow, no, like this is actually the version of that that feels so much better for me. So,
hmm
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. Were you always like a clinical social work kind of person or like what were you really interested in when you realized social work was for you?
Yeah, so I was actually I started my career in community mental health. I did all my internships in um, hospitals and a forensic hospital, so like incarceration type uh,
Oh, cool.
work. And then when I started my first big girl job, I was in mobile treatment, and so it was still kind of like the community version, but same population. So
hmm
I liked that. I was really interested in housing. I'm still really passionate about accessibility to affordable housing. It just looks a little
hmm
different in my life now. And then slowly over the past 7 years, I've transitioned more and more. It's just taken a different font, right? Like it looks a little
hmm
different now, but still same interests. Always clinical. I think it's just the type of clinical has changed and shifted over the years.
Mm, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
It's very similar. Okay. Well, I know a hot topic in social work is money.
Mhm.
And I think many social workers relate to this in that, like, especially in school, I feel like as soon as you decide to be a social worker, it's really
Mhm.
drilled into you of like, well, brace yourself because you're
Right.
going to be burnt out and overworked and not have
Yeah.
any money.
Yeah. So,
What kind of came up for you when you were noticing that and just like the conversations around money and social work?
yeah, I mean, I remember so I have my BSW and my MSW. So like
hmm
on that conversation started not even in grad school, right? Like so much earlier than that.
Yeah.
And I remember people being like, "Oh my God, like how are you going to make any money?" Like, and not actually asking what my plan was, but like a passive comment of like, "Oh, good luck." Like,
hmm
good luck signing up for a life of poverty. Like, and I was like, wow, like, thanks a lot.
hmm
Like, congratulations to you too. So I just remember like little comments like that, like, oh, like how are you gonna make any money? Or I'm sure most social workers have gotten something along the lines of like, oh, like how are you gonna handle being taking kids away from their families? Like
Mm.
never a day in my life have I worked primarily with children, so that's also just like a lot of stigma assumptions around the social
Yes.
field in general. But similar to you, we've found a way to make it work. But I think definitely at first it was, and that's why I appreciated that intro to social work class, right? Because it very quickly kind of showed me, at least, maybe not the people around me, but showed me at least that there were multiple ways to actually make this doable and make
Mm-hmm.
a living doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really nice to just kind of see, even through like my internships and field work, see people who were doing it and be like, oh, okay, like
Yeah.
I could do this and it's not as terrible as people have been telling me it will be.
Yeah. No, that's so true.
Mm,
I quickly noticed too, like so much of that does depend on where you live. Like I grew up very
yeah.
rurally, where also like a lot of the social workers that I knew maybe didn't go to school for social work or like have their license or anything like that. And so it is just like different depending on where you are. But
Yeah.
I found that I just found it to be very limiting of just like, okay, cool. Well, now I have my master's in all these student loans, and now what? I'm just like trapped.
I think it's funny you say that. I never really necessarily considered that. I mean, I grew up in the suburbs, so like a lot of the social workers I did have interaction with were through the school system, right? Naturally, just
Hmm.
that was my exposure there. But I went to school in New York City, right? So
Yeah.
a lot of which I wasn't necessarily grateful for until this moment right now, right? Realizing that like I really did get to see, I mean, there's so many social workers and so many different types of roles in
Hmm.
in the city just because there's so much to do there. So
Yeah.
really cool, I think, to see it in as I went through my schooling and internships and even like lunch and learn type stuff where you had people come in and talk. Like it was really cool to
Yeah.
be like, oh wow, like that's social work. Like that,
Hmm.
like you could do that thing as a social worker. And so I guess yeah, that exposure was really helpful, I think, to kind of shift the perspective and also help me feel more confident in that choice because
Hmm.
like I said, like I saw people doing it and living, especially in New York, being able to afford living in New York as a social worker is a feat in itself. So
100%.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's so true. I distinctly remember a professor in grad school. She also said she was like well, you gotta get used to working hard now because if you're gonna be a social worker, you're gonna have at least three jobs for the rest of your
Mm,
life.
yeah.
I'm like, I'm like, what? What do you mean?
Right.
Now, have I fallen into that? Yes, but
Hmm.
but it's mostly out of passion. I think two of
Right.
the jobs I do are not paid, and it's just for fun.
Right.
So, but it's a scary thing when like I don't
Yeah.
know, I think we're also taught like, well, you gotta get your higher education and your master's and then your license, and then you can like really develop this career for yourself and really excel and do all this. And then you're also constantly told, but you also be like deeply poor and never be able to pay off your loans. And I
Right.
agree with you, like to see something outside of that, because I also went to school in New York City and to kind of be like, oh, like there are possibilities here. Like I never even really knew private practices existed or that I would have one of my own one day.
Right.
And so to see something like that where I'm like, oh, I can actually like still do the work that I love and that like the reason for me getting into social work was to like really do this kind of thing and also not fear for like not paying my electric
Right.
bill. Like, wow, amazing.
Yeah. And I think I know a lot of people who either are listening or like have experience in the social work field probably haven't gotten to that point yet, right? Like,
Hmm.
there's even sometimes I'll like pop on LinkedIn and just look at like what jobs are currently hiring for, what jobs are available, and there are some, right, where like I'm like there's no way I would be able to pay my rent on that
Yeah. Hmm.
salary. So like there's such also I think a big discrepancy in the field, right, of like
Hmm.
what typical salary looks like or what potential salary could look like or even just growth opportunities within certain organizations. So I think it's really important that we have like the conversation we're going to have today of how to make
Mhm.
it doable, because I think if people don't have that exposure or don't even know that that's a possibility, like it's just, yeah, you kind of are then stuck in that working three
Mhm.
jobs mentality.
Yeah.
And that's definitely not sustainable for a long period of time. At least not for me. I'll speak for myself. Definitely not for me. I'm like, I think about the three jobs I used to work and I'm just tired thinking about it. So
Yeah.
I could possibly still be doing it.
Mhm. Yeah, I have these moments still where I'm like, oh, I could take on a few more clients. Like back in the
Right.
day, I was doing so much. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, no. It's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
I have peace now. Like I don't have to. It's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, what was kind of your journey, I guess, as you're kind of getting this messaging about money and basically, well, you're just going to be a broke social worker, have to work a million jobs. What shifted within you where you kind of realized, oh, I don't have to do that? And like what kind of changed in your life?
That's a great question. The pandemic, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think for a lot of us, it was that like, what is my life moment? Like a really
Mm-hmm.
forcing you to kind of reflect and like take stock of where things are at. I was working in mobile treatment in New York and we never went remote during COVID, right? So we're
Wow.
out every day. No one else is out. Like the streets are empty, which is bizarre for New York. You
Very.
know that, right? So it was super weird. I was doing that and I was also an ABA, I was doing ABA therapy at the same time. So I would do my day job, go home. I had previously been bartending, which again wasn't a thing during COVID. Like,
Right. Mm-hmm.
yeah, during COVID. So I was doing ABA remotely in early intervention birth to three, which, as you can imagine, like doing ABA therapy over Zoom is,
Oh gosh.
I don't even know, a nightmare in itself, right? So
Yeah.
I was really just like sitting in my apartment that I pay way too much for,
Mm-hmm.
and then working with all these like hoops and precautions and things you have to jump through, understandably for safety. And I was like, what is my life that I still have $4 in my bank account and I'm
Mm.
spending all day working so hard, like to the point of exhaustion.
Yeah.
And at this point, so isolated, right? Like before, being out and about in the city all day didn't feel like work, even though it was. And I was like, now this
Mm-hmm.
is very much work. Like this is physically, mentally taxing, exhausting. I'm by myself all the time. And I was like, this can't, this can't be it. Like this
Mm-hmm.
cannot be. And so I had started looking for other openings. I relocated to Philly, just for cost of living
Yeah.
reasons, honestly. And I started working at the hospital here. It was kind of the same idea. Um, and then I stumbled into an outpatient practice that actually just paid me significantly more. And I was at the point in my burnout that I was like, yep, I'll take it. Like ask
Mm-hmm.
no questions. Like you're dangling the carrot and I'm taking the taking the carrot. Um, and so when I was there, that job had its own challenges, but
Mm-hmm.
that was really my first interaction with the private practice field. And even
Mm-hmm.
though it was a larger outpatient clinic, I was like, oh, I could do this on my own.
Yeah.
Like, I don't necessarily need to work with an organization that takes however much percent of my income.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could do this and keep 100% of my income. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I just really, so I use the opportunity to like hone my therapist skills, my private practice skills, kind of pay attention to how things were done and that I liked or didn't like, and
Yeah.
really slowly just started implementing personal and professional boundaries to cut away some of that
Mm-hmm.
extra, so like my second job or saying yes to
Mm-hmm.
things that I didn't necessarily have the capacity for. And it really just kind of happened in a way that felt good and also just allowed me to breathe a little financially for the first time in my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that like to like really start setting those boundaries and kind of do more of that? Was that like uncomfortable for you, or did you
Oh
feel
yeah.
like
No,
good?
that was terrifying. Especially the quitting my second job was
Mm-hmm.
so scary. I mean, there's still times right now that I'll be like, I have time, I could take a second job. Like the
Yep.
financial scarcity, the psychology of that, right, is so deeply rooted, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I've probably been factoring money into every decision I make since I was little, right?
Yeah.
Even you just feel the vibe with your parents, right? Where you know, like they're
Mm-hmm.
being conscious about money, and I might not understand it, but I know it's a thing.
Right.
So I think it's always been a factor. I think no matter, I always joke like if I hit the lottery, no one would ever know
Mm-hmm.
because I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm putting it all in the bank. Like I'm not spending any. So I'm like, I will forever be the thrifter, the DIYer, the like. I'm not. Even if there's lots of money in the bank account, it's staying there in case we need it. Which is its own
That's
challenge.
funny.
But I think that was really scary to give that up because it felt like a safety net that I was letting go of. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I really had to do a lot of reminding myself, like, you're in a different place now and you don't
Mm.
necessarily need the safety nets you've historically needed. And it's been hard. I mean, like I said, sometimes I scroll on LinkedIn and I'm like, what if I did just go back and have someone else pay for my benefits?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Oh, I literally had that thought the other day.
I was like, a job with health insurance that I don't have to pay for.
Mm.
Sounds great. So there's
Amazing.
definitely still has its moments, but I think, was lucky to have my own really great therapist at the time I was making the transition.
Mm-hmm.
And she did a really good job of being like, okay, you're freaking out that you need a second job. Like, just take on two more clients. Like,
Mm.
do the math. Like, she really reality checked me a little bit that, like, how much you're going to make each week bartending, like, put that
Yeah.
time and energy into your passion, right?
Yeah.
Why are we still giving that time and energy to these like side hustles when you could really invest that time and energy in yourself and have a larger payout? And I think
Mm-hmm.
I still like the amount of people I've passed that line on to like it's my own. Like, sorry to the
Yes.
therapist that I just stole your line, but um, it's so true, right? Like that, like it when you're building your own brand and your own company, that the reach and the payout of that is reaches so much further than all your little side hustles. Not no shade to a side
Mm-hmm.
hustle, but I think it really took that was the switch for me that was like, oh, I need to stop investing in these like band-aids and
Yeah.
invest in a long-term plan for myself that feels a lot more stable and grounded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's so true. I think it's a big transition for a lot of people because I think a lot of people are doing the side hustle things to make ends meet. But I came to that same point too where I'm like, I'm spending so much time on doing these
Mhm.
side things. And I'm like, what if I did just like put that into this other stuff? Like,
Yeah,
and it was hard to let that go. Like it took me a long time to like really let it go
mhm.
and fully commit to like diving into private practice stuff or anything like that
Yeah.
because it did certainly feel like an immediate safety net because at least in
Oh,
the moment I was like receiving some extra cash on the side, but it was
absolutely.
like, but this is not making significant difference in my life really.
Yeah. And my clients will always tell you I'm very much can tie everything back to how capitalism is the root of all evil.
Mm,
So, uh,
preach.
yeah. So I also really had to shift how I felt about like monetizing a creative outlet. Like,
Yeah.
you can do something for the joy of it or the fun of it or the creativity of it, and it can be valuable in that way. It doesn't have to necessarily translate to a product or income or something, which is so different than how my brain existed
Hmm.
for a long time. And so that, back to your question about boundaries, like that's been a really helpful boundary is doing things simply for the joy of them as opposed to doing things to somehow have a monetary benefit for me. So
Hmm.
that's been really helpful, which I know is at this state in the world kind of a luxury to be able to do that.
Sure. Hmm.
but I think that's been really helpful for me and also helped me kind of find some of the joy in things that I lost once I tried to find a way to make money off of it, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that is very true. It's interesting too, because I mean you were talking earlier, you had this moment where you were like, oh, I think was it in community mental health you were in, where you
Mhm.
were kind of like, oh, I could do this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's such a key moment for people
Mhm.
and I think a lot of people that do struggle like imposter syndrome or just like their own sense of like being capable, maybe they haven't felt that way, but like what what was going on for you? Like, are you just like a confident person? Do you struggle with the imposter syndrome? Like, because that feels like such a huge moment to have of just like this
Yeah.
internal certainty of like, oh, I can do this.
Well, it's funny you asked that because I think I've realized as I've grown our practice and done a lot of networking and connecting with other practice owners or people who are interested in owning a private practice,
Hmm.
I've realized exactly what you're saying, right? That how limiting, how influential those self-limiting beliefs are for a lot of people. And
Yeah.
I've grown a lot of gratitude for the fact that that's not necessarily something I've really struggled with. I very much kind of in all areas of my life have the like, well, like we'll try it kind of
That's awesome.
mentality of like,
Hmm.
well, we're just gonna give it a like, what's the worst that could happen? I mean, I have to close my practice and go back to working for someone else. Like, yeah, I wouldn't love that, but it's an option and it's there. Uh,
Hmm.
and I have a lot of support from my family and my friends, so that was obviously really helpful, especially in the financial side of things, right? Knowing that like if worst case scenario I needed to, I could ask for help if I needed it.
Yeah.
And so
Mm.
I don't necessarily know. I think now I would say yes, I'm a confident person. Definitely have not always been that way. I think a lot of it was the like fake it till you make it. What would the confident version
Yes.
of yourself say if they were opening a private practice? Like, what would that look like? But I think it's really this is gonna sound crazy. It's not that hard if you don't think it's that hard. If that makes
Hmm.
sense. Like
Yes, I agree.
I'll tell people all the time, like, you could do it. I don't even know you and you could do it. Okay, like to everyone listening, you can absolutely do it
Hmm.
because it's when you realize that your practice, your brand, like it's not about, yes, it's about the clinical skills but we all have that education, right?
Yeah.
We all get the same, we all take the same test, we all pay the same hundreds of dollars to get get that piece of
Hmm.
paper, right? But
Yep.
your brand is you,
Mm.
right? And I think when people realize that, which yes, requires a certain level of confidence and in your capacity and your capability, but once you realize that, it becomes a lot easier and you become a lot more resilient in navigating those challenges and obstacles because you can keep coming back to this idea that like I'm gonna be fine. My clients come to see me.
Mm. Yeah, that's
And,
powerful.
and that's a really cool thing, especially when you're building your caseload, because at a lot of other practices you get clients, right? Like
Right.
given to you, but in private practice you kind of have to get your own.
Hmm.
And so I think
That's
that
very
can be
true.
really intimidating for people, but once you get there, you're like, oh wow, like these people really show up every week to get on a call with me.
That's so true.
Like ask me questions. I'm like, sometimes my life's a hot mess and they're like, what should I do? And I'm like, I don't know why you're asking me, but but I guess we could try and figure it out.
Right.
But I
Oh.
think that's if anything I could wish people would realize is like you are your brand and that's such a powerful
Hmm.
thing to invest in and believe in because at the end of the day, like your education is yes, great, helpful, super important, but when you're in the private practice field, it's you. Like people come to see you.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's so true. It's a very just like grounding and empowering thing to sit with of just like, oh, I'm kind of amazing. People want
Right.
people want to talk to me about these things. How cool.
You are exactly who you think you are.
That's awesome. Now I know, because we're talking a lot about like private practice and everything. I know some people, although they're capable and they can totally do it, maybe
Mhm.
don't want to start their
Yeah.
own practice or whatever. From your experience and like maybe working at other people's practices or in like community mental health, what are some things that like social workers can really look for as green flags in
Mm.
organizations where it's like, okay, well, yeah, maybe I can meet some of these money goals I have, or I can have a work-life balance. What do you think are like key things that you noticed throughout your experience that were important?
Yeah, I'm glad you say that because it's also just because everyone can open their own practice doesn't mean everyone should, right?
Hmm.
I'm just saying that because it's definitely not for everybody, right? You very
Sure.
quickly, I talked to a lot of people who are like, I don't want to deal with the admin and the marketing and the getting my own clients and the social media and like if you know yourself and you know that that's not for you because when you own your own practice, you are not just a therapist, you are
Hmm.
an accountant and a bookkeeper and a
Yeah.
thing. So for folks who do want to work at a practice, regardless, or an organization, regardless of the size, one of the things I look for is who's in charge, right? Who runs it.
Hmm.
Had to learn that one the hard way because I did work for a group that was owned by business people, right? And
Oh no.
and no shade to business people, they have their place in the world. Mental health is not that that
Yeah.
place,
Hmm.
right? So there would be times where you could very clearly tell which executive decisions were being made by clinicians and which executive
Mm.
decisions were being made by the business folks. And I think when you let that business voice become louder than the clinical voice, you really lose the ethos of your practice. And
Yeah.
it really impacts client care and more like staff morale and culture. So,
Oh, definitely.
and you could see that, right? I watched that happen, and that was when I decided, like, I have to step away from this place. So I think
Hmm.
that's definitely a green flag I look for is when upper management, not even middle management, but upper management is clinical staff or
Hmm.
at least someone with a mental health background because yes, obviously the numbers, the bottom line important, but we can't make that more important than the quality of care that we're providing. So that's
Hmm.
I also really looked for and love when companies invest in the development of their clinicians. So whether that's like tuition reimbursement, CEU coverage,
Mm.
supervision coverage, um, staff trainings, things like that, because
Hmm.
if you find a place that wants you to grow and develop and even leave, right? Like I had to interview some
Yeah.
places like, we don't want you to be here forever. Like we want this
That's awesome.
stepping stone for your career. And then, when it's time to leave, you leave and you go on to do other things. But I can really respect that because they're going to invest in your development in the same way you should be investing in your development. Instead of work for a company that can meet you in that is really great for culture and I
Yeah.
think your experience there. Um, and to go off that point, also supervision, staff supervision.
Mm.
At the time, when I was
Huge.
getting even my initial license and then my clinical license, I
Hmm.
supervision was like an annoyance, right? Like it was like,
Yes.
supervision, like I got to put this on the spreadsheet to send to the board. But looking back now, I'm really so incredibly grateful for the supervisors that I've had in my career because I would not be this competent in my clinical skill set or even just like my abilities in general if I had not had them. And I know a lot of
Hmm.
people do not have that experience, and I really think it's not valued enough how important strong clinical supervision is. I mean, we do incredibly important work and sometimes just need an outside voice, an outside perspective to kind of shed some light on things we might be missing. And even now,
Yeah.
like I'll seek out supervision from or consultation, I guess, from colleagues because
Hmm.
I don't know it all and nobody knows it all. But
Hmm.
if we, if you get complacent in doing this work without some form of consultation, supervision, like I think you really limit yourself and limit your clients as well. So,
Yeah.
one of the big things I would say, um, upper management being clinical,
Hmm.
you got growth and development opportunities, and then strong supervision.
Yeah, I agree because I feel like a lot of the poor experiences many people have had that I've talked to, like so much of that has been tied to supervision or like a lack of like
Yeah,
management support, like a lack of an ability to grow or to really develop themselves and their careers and all of that. And that's the kind of stuff where it's so important. Like we want to feel like there's a bigger picture to our careers and that we're like moving forward in some way and that we also have support in the here and now because it's
absolutely.
just very easy to feel very alone and like you don't know what's going on and what to do. And all of a sudden you have a million clients and you're
Right.
stressed out and it's like, geez, what is
Yeah.
going on?
And it's one of those things where you don't, I don't know how to word it, but like you don't always know you don't have the greatest supervisor until you have a good one.
Yes.
And then you
Mm-hmm.
have a good one and you're like, whoa, like this is what good supervision feels like. Like I've been missing something that I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even know I was missing. Um,
Yeah.
and I was lucky to start my career off with an incredible supervisor who kind of really set the highest bar possible. But in doing that, I've now been super intentional about my supervision and things like that because and it's also helped me have so much respect for other people in this field because there are
Mm-hmm.
things you're probably really knowledgeable in and skilled in that is a weakness of mine, right? And so
Sure.
trying to stay humble in that sense of like I don't know everything, we'll never know everything, but there are people who do know more in certain areas than I do, and so
Mm-hmm.
to know that I think especially in the private practice field helps with that isolation because I'll just
Yeah.
consult with colleagues all the time and I feel like I am part of a team still, even though I
Mm-hmm.
see my clients just one on one. So,
Yeah, that's such an important piece to being a therapist where
mhm.
I never even crossed my mind until I was in grad school, like doing my field placement and in a community mental health clinic, and I stayed on like a year and a half later to work there as a therapist, where it really just hit me. I'm like, this is so isolating. Like
Yeah,
and even though I worked in a clinic and there were other therapists around, like everyone had different schedules or they were just like in session all the time, and all of a sudden I'm like, this is not I just feel so alone. So, and now it's just, I make it such a point to connect with people because that's also just what keeps me grounded in the profession and like giving me hope and encouragement and excitement for it is to see all these other people that like have the same passion and like wanting the same things in the field, like coming together. It's so beautiful.
it is. And I don't know about you, but like every time I leave something like that, like I'm sure when we end this call, I'm gonna be like,
Hmm.
it's gonna be such a productive day, right? Like I'm gonna be super
Always.
motivated. I'm gonna be like, yeah, this is why I do what I do. Like,
That's right.
so every time I leave like either a call with the colleague, coffee, a networking event, I'm like, it just kind of re-solidifies
Hmm.
the why, right? Like the this is why I do what I do, and also that creativity that like the field doesn't have to look like what it's historically looked like, and there's a lot of room for development and creativity, especially right now. So
Hmm.
it also kind of really fuels that creative, like where are the gaps in current services? What can we do? Owning your own practice, you have a lot of flexibility and freedom in that way, and so
Right.
that's been kind of our favorite part of owning our group practices. Like we say this to people all the time. If you have an idea, let us know. Like odds are we say yes and can make it happen some way because
So
it,
fun.
yeah, but it's so different than working for like I got
Hmm.
a request and wait 3 to 6 weeks and da 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 da, and it's like, okay, you want to do it tomorrow? Like, like you have so
Hmm.
much more freedom when you're your own boss.
That's very true. Oh, what does like balance look like for you now when I mean you are your own boss and I hear from like kind of both sides of the spectrum of there's so much more freedom and flexibility in doing that, and also you can get sucked into like working constantly because it is your business and you have to like keep it afloat and sustain it and all of that.
Hmm.
So what are you kind of doing in your life right now where you feel like you have a good balance, you're preventing burnout, you're feeling financially in a good spot? What does that look like for you?
I think a lot. It's definitely a learning curve, and it took me a while to get here, I will say. So,
Yeah.
um, because different than working in like the hospital where I am like, okay, it's 5:30, gotta go. Like, cannot stay past
Right.
5:30, like need to walk out those doors and can't take your work computer home with you. So
Mm-hmm.
that's nice. Um, so I think the biggest thing, so for me, I like to get out of get out of the house.
Yes.
And working from home obviously makes that challenging because that to-do list, you never reach the bottom of that to-do list.
Never.
Like, oh, once I finish everything I have to do. Like, anytime I hear someone say that, I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like, once you finish your to-do list, like, that must be such a good feeling. Um,
So
but
true.
I really try to, I think time blocking really works really well for me. It's something that I've kind of integrated into how I just set up my week where like I don't see any clients before 11 a.m. because that just doesn't, I can't. It just doesn't work
Yes.
in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll like have my slow morning, get my movement in, whether it's a walk or the gym, and then I have chunk of clients, and then I'll do chunk of admin work, and then I'll get out the house to meet a friend or something, and then I'll have a chunk of my evening clients, and then I'll have like So I really try to
Mm.
actually put on my calendar like friend time, like
Mm-hmm.
outside time, and block that
Yes.
calendar. And I think it's at first, yes, an adjustment to hold myself accountable to those boundaries, but now it's also, I've been doing it for so long that it's almost second nature where I really don't think about work when I'm not working, which is great. I think
Awesome.
that's also the benefit of changing the acuity of clientele you work with because my clients are pretty solid. And even if something goes on or happens throughout the week, like they'll shoot me a text or an email and we'll come up with a plan. But coming
Mm-hmm.
from crisis work, like my heart rate isn't sky high all the time anymore. So
Yeah.
it's really nice to just like, they're like, oh, I'm freaking out. And I'm like, what happened? And they're like, oh, I had a bad day at work. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like we can do this. We can figure
Yeah.
this, we can figure out. So
Oh my gosh, that's so
it's
funny.
nice. And I think it just aligns with my life a lot more. I tell people my dream was never to be a therapist. My dream is not to be a therapist for the rest of my life. But
Yeah.
right now, the flexibility and lifestyle that it affords me, that is a larger pro than like the large lifetime passion. So for this phase of my life, it's the absolute best possible fit. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that's, I think, part of it too, of like, yeah, my dream is to go back to community work in some way. I don't
Yeah.
have to give that up just because this phase of my life is private practice. And I think
Mm.
that's my very like DBT brain coming out of like, why can't two things be true at the same time? Like they can't
Mm-hmm.
be, but so that was like a hurdle I had to accept when I started doing this of like, you're not giving up that
Yeah.
dream. This is just a pathway to that dream that I hadn't initially identified was available for me. And right now, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah. Gosh, we've lived like parallel lives because I've had like I've had like the same like experiences and feelings there too, where like I do love being in private practice and I love being a therapist right now. But it was one of
Right.
those things where I'm like, this wasn't necessarily what I signed up for or like what I envisioned
Yeah.
social work to be. And I do miss I in my undergrad I did an internship at a child advocacy center and I was obsessed with that kind of work and that's something I like always want to go back to. And I'm kind of like, but it's okay. Like there's time. I think there's kind of coming back to that mindset of like abundance and not so scarcity about things where it's just like there's time, like this works for the season of life that I'm in right now, for what my family needs, for what I need, and I'm still liking it. Like it's still a fun time. And I don't know, I talk to so many social workers in different seasons of life, and like I've talked to many super seasoned social workers, and their careers are all over the place. And so often they're just like, oh yeah, well like this opportunity came up and I was like, oh that's interesting, so I went with it. I'm like, oh okay, like
So
life just happens and you can go with it.
And so many people will message me like I didn't even know that. I'm sure I knew this at one time and I just forgot, but I went to Fordham and there's apparently I'm in a video that like the intro to social work
Oh
students
my gosh.
watch. So like once a year I'll get like a LinkedIn message like, "Hey, like I just saw you in the video." And I'm like, "Can someone send me a copy of this video because I don't know what I say in this video, but
That's so funny.
they'll be like, "Can we chat? Like, I want to pick your brain about picking social work as a career." And so a lot of people will ask me, like, I'm thinking about going back to school. Should I do social work or um, psychology, right? Like, go the
Mm,
DC
yeah,
route. And I'm like, listen, obviously I'm biased, right? Like,
of course.
you know what choice I made. So obviously I have, but I always talk about that flexibility of like, if I woke up tomorrow and decided I wanted to go work in a school, I could do that. If I decided I wanted to work in a hospital, I could do that. If I wanted to go back to working in prisons, I could do that. If I wanted to, like, there's so much flexibility and versatility in the social work field that
Hmm.
I don't know if you're like me, but if you get the like 2 year itch where you're like, hey, need something new,
Yes.
you you really can so easily do it.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's unique to a lot of other fields and careers where, yeah, there's flexibility, but like within these boundaries. And I know social workers who do like wildly different things. So I think that's really cool and helped me kind of find some peace of like, okay, I'm not pigeonholing myself into one thing for the rest of my life. It can really look like those phases and align with kind of where I'm at personally and professionally at the same time.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's very true. I feel like everyone needs to be hearing this conversation because I just feel like it's so important of just first, social work does provide that flexibility, and also just really dismantling a lot of these things. Because I'm thinking about like I haven't been in social work for that long. Like it's really been, I guess, like 5.5 years post grad, and I just feel like I'm such a vastly different person than where I was at the beginning of my profession, being burnt out in community mental health, making like $30 an hour, and then only making money if clients show up to a session, and me being like, what's going on? I don't know if I want to do this anymore, and I thought I would love it, to now just having a lot more stability and peace of mind and assurance of just like, yeah, you can meet your financial needs, you can have a good work-life balance, and you can also feel like you're doing the social work thing and feeling fulfilled in what that looks like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, whenever I get my community mental health itch of like I need to be back in the field on the street, like talking to people doing this work, I just go volunteer. Like
Yes.
I
Yes.
which which is it's and then I leave and I'm like, okay, like no, I am doing the right thing. Like I am where I'm supposed to be. I just
Hmm.
needed this. Right. And so
Yeah.
it allows, and that's why, in our practice, we both have our individual caseloads, but as we continue to grow, we're trying to focus more on like community events and things like that. But
Hmm.
having that financial stability from my caseload allows me the capacity to do those community events, right? So
Yeah.
it's also finding that balance, again, the balance of like it doesn't need to be one or the other, right? I don't need to be
Hmm.
monetizing every single thing that I do and really 100% in this private practice world, but
Hmm.
the reality is that's where my the financial stability comes from, right? At least right now. And
Yeah.
so if I can find a way to have my caseload in a way that meets my financial needs, then I have more time to host this
Hmm.
event or go volunteer or do these other things. So it it's really knowing it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't need to be one or the other, right? We can
Hmm.
really find that balance. And depending on where you're at too, like I know I've talked to a lot of private practice owners who are parents, right? And they're like, this is
Hmm.
the only job that would allow me to have my schedule like this. Or
100%.
yeah. Yep. Yes. So I know
Yeah.
it's like there's no other I can't really can't think of another world that would let you get your kid on the bus, have pick up your kid if they're sick, put your kid to bed, like all the be there when you need to be there and have it be so flexible too, because obviously
Mhm.
kids don't follow the schedule of your clients.
Right.
How dare they? So, um, yeah, I know it's just allowed people to have the lifestyle that they want and really reaffirming like we are not our work is part of us, but we are not our job, right? And that's been really
Yeah.
helpful.
Hmm. No, that's very true. It's something I've thought about a lot too, because, I have a toddler. I only have one kid. My
Right.
sister has four kids, and she is like a case manager. I think now she's a director of like a community program. Um, but I'm like, how do you do it? Like, how do you? And she's like, Laura, it's really hard. Like,
Yeah,
I run out of
right.
days off constantly. I don't have any sick time for myself because I'm like, I have one toddler, and here I am having to like take days off constantly, and I'm really happy for the flexibility. But it's also still been the one thing where I've considered going into a group practice and trying to lower my caseload and supervise more clinicians to give myself even more flexibility because
Yeah.
there is that layer of just like as much as my clients have been very flexible with like the sick days I've needed to take off, it's still hard. Like it's still hard
Yeah.
when your therapist is like, sorry, I can't make it today. My toddler's sick again.
No, absolutely. I think that's, especially if I have a new client, right, which I know I should probably treat them all the same, but like if I have a new client, I like feel worse about rescheduling. Right?
Yeah,
You don't know me enough yet to know that like I'm not actually like it's not because I don't want to meet with you, right? Like
right.
really this is actually like urgent and I have to reschedule. But my clients I've been seeing for a couple years, I'll be like, hey, odds we can reschedule. And they'll be like, yeah, no worries. Like, how about tomorrow?
Hmm.
Like, so I think it's also part of that is, the rapport you build with your clients and even just like the
Yeah.
clients you see, right? If I have a client,
Hmm.
I mean, granted, this is not what my life looks right now, but if I had a client who I knew was really attached to a certain day and time and really not flexible on rescheduling, and I had kids, I might be like, this might not be the greatest fit because our lifestyles
Right.
just don't align right now.
Hmm. Yeah. I feel like that's another good example too for like the social workers, the therapists, private practice owners listening of like you do have a lot more power there, like to also determine who you're working with. Like I've
Yeah.
talked to a lot of social workers that feel like not aligning on availability or like for some other reason is not a good, it doesn't feel like a good enough reason for them to not work with someone. And I'm like, no, but it is.
Yeah.
Like that's maybe something we need to really sit with and internalize is that like that's reason enough because all of a sudden those boundaries that you had or like those things that you need for your own well-being and lifestyle are just immediately falling by the wayside just to accommodate one person and then all of a sudden it's accommodating everybody. Like you do have to be intentional with setting those systems in place so that way you are good and that you feel good in your life.
Yeah, that's a conversation I have with a lot of people who are newer to the private practice field because I think that's a concept that is unique to private practice that like you really
Hmm.
any other I can't really think of another like genre of social work where you get to pick your clients in that way and
Right.
every other job you really just get whoever's put on your schedule, right? Or whoever walks through the
Hmm.
door, whoever steps into your ER, right? Like there's so I think it feels really unnatural to be like, I don't think I'm the best fit for you. And
Hmm.
so I'll have this conversation whenever I have my consult calls with people. Yeah, we do the clinical, like, why are you here? What are you looking for? Da 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 da. But then I always ask, like, okay, clinical aside, like personality wise, what are you looking for? What have you experienced with other therapists that you've liked or not liked? And
Yeah.
sometimes even with clients I've had for a long time, like I had a conversation with a client a couple weeks ago because I could tell he was getting frustrated with me, and I was like, let's pause for a second. Why are you frustrated? And he was like, I really just want you to tell me everything's gonna be fine.
Mm.
And I was like, I hear you. Like, that's valid. That you also know that that's not gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's nothing wrong with you for wanting that, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, like, are you going to be okay? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we can that's a conversation we can have, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, you're okay, everything's fine. Like that's just not my style. And
Yeah.
I know that there are therapists out there that is more their style, and I love them for that. But if that's what you're looking for, then maybe we need to have a conversation about someone whose
Mm-hmm.
style would fit you more. And I think it's a lot easier to say no to a client who like presents with something you're not skilled in,
Yeah.
right? When you can find like the
Mm-hmm.
clinical reasoning. Like I know if a client comes in and they're like, I'm really struggling with my OCD, that's just not like OCD treatment is just not a skill set that I have. It's not.
Yeah.
And so I'll be like, cool, I have a colleague who really that's the primary focus of their practice. Like, let me connect you guys. But I
Mm-hmm.
think people really struggle with redirecting folks who have differences in style or
Yeah.
personality. And that I think is forever the ongoing debate in this field. Like I'll just even scroll through Facebook comments sometimes, even especially like political, right? Where it's like, can you disclose
Oh, yeah.
political? I don't even want to, let's not open that can of worms today, but I will say like I'm very much of the mindset that my who I am as a person is in the room with me when we're in session, and I'm not going to ignore
Absolutely.
that. So my clients have the right to know who she is, and we also have the right to decide, like, you know what, this just doesn't align because it impacts their what they get out of session too, right? Like
Yeah.
if I'm dreading seeing a client every Thursday evening, like, oh, like today's Thursday, I see this person again,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to impact what they're getting out of this experience too. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's personal. Like I'm carrying around the stress of having a client who doesn't align with me as a therapist, but also it's like a disservice to them,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I think a lot of private practice owners could kind of benefit from knowing that there could be a therapist out there who's a better fit for some of your clients, and it's okay to acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, that's so true. We don't have to take everybody. It's
Right.
okay. And it's probably better for everyone involved to not do that.
And how good it feels when you have a caseload of clients who are perfect for you.
Yes, it's
Like
huge.
right now, I'm in that good groove where like I could have handpicked all my clients, like,
Mm.
and I'm like, this just doesn't feel like work. I get to wake up and be
Oh, that's amazing.
like, yay, I get to see Katie today. Like, oh, I wonder how da 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 went, and it's just so nice. And I wish everyone
Hmm.
could experience the like absence of dread when it comes
Yes.
to work.
Uh, Unfortunately, I feel like it's such a thing we all experience at some point,
Mhm.
especially like early on in our careers where it's like, all right, here we go.
Right.
But
Yeah.
again, for those listening to know, it doesn't have to be that way.
No.
Like there is another way and you can feel good all the time, most of the time.
But definitely not all the time, but
Definitely not all the time.
definitely
There's
not.
rough moments still.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's
Oh,
challenges, right? But it's still like, even though this is challenging, I still know it's the right fit. Like,
yeah,
so
that's so true. This has been such a delightful conversation.
thanks.
I'm obsessed with you. And I'm honestly, it's just exciting these conversations because I get so encouraged to see other therapists in the world and other social workers. And I'm like, I'm so glad you're in the field. Like people need you in the community, in the world with your perspective and your energy. And I'm just really happy to have gotten to speak with you today.
Thank you.
Um,
Be
as
here.
we kind of wrap up, is there this is always the harder question I feel like to end on, but like, is there any kind of one piece of advice and all the things we talked about that you would really want to drive home to those listening?
Oh my gosh. So many things. Thousands of
Hmm.
just one. Hmm. okay, it's gonna be a little corny, but
Okay.
I feel like all advice kind of is a little corny. But there is priceless value to surrounding yourself with people who think you can do it.
Mm, yes.
And when you start to bet on yourself, you'll really recognize that value. But people who can see you doing it before you can even see yourself doing it, those are the people. Keep them.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I I agree with you. I agree with you so much. Like I think a lot of this stuff, like I'm thinking about because I have a mentorship program for social workers that I'm working on, and I was meeting with a couple people, and the energy was not good. Like it seemed like they wanted to be a part of it, but also they hated it and didn't want to support it. And so I'm just like, there's a part where I'm like, why are you here? And also, this is
Right.
so frustrating and discouraging when, like, the whole
Yeah.
point is to come together and like do this thing. Like, there truly is power in people just like believing in
Yeah.
you and like being an encouragement and having that energy around you. Otherwise, it's just like it's more stuff that you have to trudge through, and it just
Right.
gets exhausting.
Well, like the doing life period is hard enough. Doing professional
Hmm.
life harder. Doing that all with people who doubt you. Like,
Insane.
no. There's just no thank you.
Yeah.
No
No
thank you.
thanks.
It's hard. Things are hard enough right now without that. Like,
Hmm.
yeah. So I think that's if I could wish something for everyone, it's that you have at least one person who you give them the hear me out thought and they're like, yeah, let's do it.
Hmm.
Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah.
Like that is such a valuable thing that not enough people have, but when you do have it,
Hmm.
it's incredible.
Yeah. I agree. Oh, well, thank you so much, Jenna, for coming on today. I think this is just a great time. I've had a great time. Where can the listeners kind of keep up with you and what you're doing and your practice and all of that?
Yeah, so we have our website, takecarecollective.org. And we also have an Instagram, which is Take Care Collective, but it's Take Care CLTV. Um, and we post all of our updates there. Like I said, we're based out of Philly and Baltimore, but we do take clients well, I take clients in Pennsylvania, Jersey, and Maryland. We have a lot of really cool community events, retreats coming up in 2026. So we would love
Awesome.
to have you guys come. We are always community building is a big part of what we do. So we're always looking to expand our community in any and every way possible. So if anyone listening wants to get in touch, connect, has an idea, let us know. We'll make it happen. Uh,
I love that. That's great.
but thank you so much for having me. This was awesome, and it was great to chat with you.
It was great to chat with you. And for those listening, everything that Jenna just talked about will be linked below. So feel free to give them a follow and the practice a follow. Doing incredible work that I'm very excited about that really energizes me about social work and the mental health world. So it's exciting.
Well,
And
I'm gonna
for those listening, oh, go ahead. Mhm.
I was gonna say I'm gonna hang up and be so productive today. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I'm energized for like a week now.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome. And if you're listening, feel free to like, share the podcast, tell another social worker about it, and we will see you next time. Thank you, Jenna.
Thank you so much.